Okay, so I will split this in four parts. So we can work in each of these parts. You can take one of your project's pages that matches one of these parts and try to build it using your own project. But let's see what these page types are. So what we're going to do today is to identify what are the page types, like common page types that most applications have, right? And I have identified four for you. The first one is the list or listing, right? So this is a page where you list information, right? You have a list of information. You've probably seen this before in your, I don't know, your bank application, your bank app, right? Portal, where you see all the transactions or recent transactions. You can see this, I don't know, in any app that has basically a list of items that then you can choose, right? That's a listing. The other one is the add or create form. So this is a page where you go to add new data to the database, right? Let's say I have, and I would use an example. Let's say I have a list of personnel. Let's say people, right? And I want a list of people. I want to show all the list of persons in that database. I want to be able to add more persons to this database. And then I would like to edit information for every person in that database. And the details page. The details page is a particular page where you can show all the information related to that particular person, right? But you can also add extra information that's also related to that person, right? Because usually you have one table, like for example, people, but let's say my application is about, I don't know, academic grading, right? Like what is this person studying or whatever in a college. So I might have a table for, how do you call, what is the word? No. I'm talking about what grades that person is, what topics. How do you call that?
Topics?
Yeah, what?
An element, an attribute, a column, a row.
You have it. What?
Subject?
No, not subject.
What are you trying to say?
When you go to college, right, and you took a bunch of.
Your major?
Yeah, but what are the actual the classes that you're taking, right?
Courses?
The courses that you're taking. That's so dumb. So that person might be taking different courses. And for every course, you have some grading and some schedule and a bunch of other stuff. So I have a relationship within these two. And in the details page, I will see the information for the person, but also the information about their courses, right? Because this is a school management application, right? So that's what the details page is for. So now you have four types. What I'm saying is that these are not the only four types, right? There might be some other types, but most of web applications are comprised by these four types of pages, right? These are pages. And we will learn how to build these four types of pages today using Supabase, okay? Because Supabase is the database provider that we're using in this project, okay? By the way, there is a Supabase meetup tomorrow. It's like here in Miami. So Supabase is a company. They're getting.
Are they here for eMerge?
I'm not sure, but they have something scheduled for tomorrow at 9, and I think it will be great because they are pretty cool. Okay, so let's work on this page types, right? Let's start with the first one. The first one is the listing. Okay? Now, because we are using Next.js, remember, when we create a page in Next.js, it's basically adding something to the pages folder, right? If I am creating a pages for people, I might as well create a people folder, and then inside that folder I'll create the index.js file. That means that in the browser I will be able to access this page by going to the URL people, right? Every time I go to /people, I will go to this page, right? Now, that's the listing page. That's the first page that we're going to create, okay? Now, just to see how this matches with the rest of the pages, if I want to create the add page or the create page, I might want to create it inside that same folder. Create, right? Because now this page will be accessible when I go to people/create, right? So that means that from my listing page, I should have somewhere in the page a button, right, for adding a new person to this database, and that button is just a link that goes to the /people/create, right? Now, for the edit, we can go to people. Now, edit requires to know the ID of the person, right? Because I want to edit one person. And every person in that database will have a unique identifier, right? Now, I need to use that identifier in the URL somehow to be able to tell the page, this is the user or the people or the resource ID that I want to modify, right? For that, in Next.js, we have this convention. When you put a segment or a folder in between square brackets, that means that that segment or that part of the URL is dynamic. That means that can be anything, and then I can, in the code, grab that from the URL, right? So I will use that, and I will put ID after people /index.jsx. Okay, and this page will be accessible at people / and then the ID of the person. Let's say 00001, right? So this section here is dynamic. It could be 0001, it could be 027662, whatever, right? That means that this section here is dynamic. It could be anything, but it will go to this third page.
Ese ID lo crea la máquina, ¿no? El Supabase.
Yeah. It's the ID from your database. Remember, every table in your database has a property or a field called ID. That's unique, right? That's the ID that you want. Now, the last one is the details. Well, this is the details, sorry. This is the details, yes, I'm right. And then we have the update. And for the update, I will use the update JSX or edit or whatever you, right? And then that means that if I go to myapp.com people 020762/edit, I will go to edit that data, right? So now you see that I have, in terms of visually, because it's still kind of not clear from where to where I'm going, right? So let's try to draw this visually with a mockup. So I will have a listing page, right? This listing page have all the elements. So this is a list, right? And what is the URL of my listing page? /people. Now the listing page basically lists all the people. List of people. I think this is a redundancy, right? Because people is like plural, but okay, you get the idea. Now I will create another page here, and this will be the add. So this will be /people /add, right? Or create. By the way, it could be create, it could be add, whatever means create a new one, right? And this will basically be a form to add new person. When this form finishes, so you can go from here, let me add a button here to add. From this button here, I go to this page, right? Yeah. And when this form finishes, where should it go?
To the list.
Person's details page or back to the list.
That's a good one. It could be to the details page, or it can go to the listing, right? It's up to you, but yeah, right. Now, if I click on one of the person, where should I go? To the which one?
Your profile.
To /people /the ID /nothing, right? It goes to the details. So this is the detail of person. What person? The person by the ID that's in the URL. If you put a random ID in the URL, that page will basically give you that person doesn't exist because it cannot load that data, right?
Get a number right.
No, because the numbers are very long, I generate dynamically, etc. So if you click any of the person here, you will go to this page, right? And if I want to modify, I should have something in the page to update. And that should go to the /people /ID /edit. And this is the edit for person ID. Right? So if I click that update, I will go here. When I finish updating, I should go back. Right? Now you can change the name of people for anything that you want, and you need the same. You need the same 4 pages. You need the list, you need the form for adding new one, you need the details page, and you need an edit form, right? You have it, for example, you have.
In my case, I have some.
You have providers, for example.
Yeah, some services.
What I'm saying, a list, by the way, don't visually look at a list because, for example, in your app, it's not a list, it's like cars, right?
Yeah.
But that's still a list.
Is a list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
But
you still not.
I have many services. For example, electrician.
That's another list.
Yeah.
If you go, for example, let's take that example that
Christian.
Christian has. So Christian has an app where you have providers of services, service providers, right? So the first list that you see, the first page that you see is what? A list of providers. Oh, wait. Oh, service types.
Yeah.
So you go to a list of service types, right? Even if they are cars, right, are still a list because the data for this page you're getting from the services, right? So what would be the URL for this page?
Service
Slash services
type.
or services.
Or
Don't, yeah. Let's make it simple, right? So this is the first page, slash services. Now, if I click on one of these services, where should I go?
To the providers. This
To
service.
a page that has the details for that service. The thing that in this particular app, that page, right? But the page is this, slash services, slash ID, right? The service ID. The thing is that this page should be the details for this service. But the details for this service is essentially all the providers that provide this service. So this is also a list, right? And this is the list of providers of this service type by the ID. So you have provider. Now, if you click on the provider, where do you go?
Provider detail.
You go to the provider's detail. What is the provider's details page? What is the provider's details page? The URL. What's the URL for that page? Providers slash ID. So when you click here, it will go to that provider. Okay? Sorry. It's an extension of the same model. What I'm saying is that this is not like set on stone. You can have variations of this because in this case you have two levels, right? So you go from service types to providers to this, and then you go to the provider ID, to the provider details page. But essentially you have 4 page types. You have a listing, you have an add form, you have an edit form, and you have the details page. You have to identify in your app what page is what and just build it the way we're going to decide now. Okay? Questions? No questions? Cool. Let's go to build then a listing page. So let's build that listing page. Now for this listing page, yeah, that's my, I black it out. I black it out my, because we're gonna work about storage as well. Yeah, I black it out there.
That was a long line that day to get to that today.
Shit, yeah. Okay, so let me create a table first, right? I will create a table of people. And I will add several fields here, right? I will create a name. This will be a text. And what else can I do? A DOB. This is a date. Oops. And I would add
Name.
a what?
Name.
I have a name, yeah. What else can I know about a person? Maybe the phone, right?
Address.
Email, right. Okay. I think address is a good one.
Gender.
I'll stay quiet for that one. Well, better leave it open. Okay, address, phone, email. Let's leave it like that. Oh, and I will add one more. I will add the picture.
Yeah.
Right? Now, so far I've been telling you for pictures use a UUID to connect it to the storage table. But for now, I will put picture as text. Okay?
Address. You don't need random.
Sorry?
Address.
No. Why is UUID? It should be text.
And my picture would be like a profile picture, right?
Yeah, the
Okay.
picture of the person, right?
So you're doing text right now just as a placeholder?
The what?
For a picture, you're doing text as just a placeholder? Or what?
It will be the picture. It will be, yeah, but it will be the name of the file that has the picture in Supabase. Because Supabase also provides storage, right? And we can start store files there, and we can basically say, okay, this is the file that you can get from Supabase, right?
We have free accounts with them, right? Or we
Sorry.
we have 4G.
So this will be my people table. ID, name, date of birth, phone, address, email.
Yeah,
and
uh,
picture.
Type of service in my case.
I'm not doing
Yeah,
providers.
but in my case,
Well, that's a foreign key to the different table.
General.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good. Actually, that's a good question. No. I got your point. Let's make it. Okay, so let's add these fields. Let's create another table for
Race. Ethnicity.
another hard one. So many sensitive things. Let's put a different one. I know. Let's do this. Let's put just a country. Can we put a bird country or something like that? Or country.
Origin.
Oh, because you can put like country ID, country.
Yeah, exactly.
name.
To make countries. So I want to create a countries table. And I would just add a name.
And you said all lower cases and use underscores as space?
Wait, what did you say? Sorry?
I think, if I remember correctly, you said that use lowercase, right, and underscores for spaces?
Yeah, so
You do it, I just, perfect.
Yeah.
I don't need my database too.
yeah. I always create all the table names with lowercase and separating with underscore. Yeah. Okay, so this is the countries table. It just has a name, right? ID and name. So now we can connect the people table to the countries table using a field. So I can add a country ID. Of course, this should be a UUID, and I can connect it using a foreign key to the countries table, country ID to ID. So that means that if I want to create a person, I have to specify what country, right? So I should have, let's add a couple of countries here. So let's add USA. And let's add Colombia.
Mexico, Canada.
Let's add two more. Mexico. Well, I'm Cuban, so
Yeah.
otherwise I cannot put myself in there. Okay, so I have 4 countries. Now, if I want to add a person here, I can add the name. Let's say it's John Doe. Date of birth is 29/08/1985. The phone is 305. Okay, and then the address is 10 Main Street, SF, California 94101. Email is john@doe.com. And picture, I will set it to null. But here in country ID, I can select what country, and that's the data, right? The only thing that I haven't entered here is the picture, but we can see that later. But we can add information in that table, right? Now, I need to create a listing where all this user information will be displayed, okay? That's the first page I will create. Now, for that, I will use one of my templates, this template, that you already have a template that has Supabase installed because you can log in, right? And also has, well, if it doesn't, we will install the React Query library. You remember React Query was a library that we use so we can query any backend, but it will manage the process of making the query, waiting for the query, showing the error, retrying the query, right? So we manage all that state. It will not actually do the query. You have to provide a function that will query for the data. But it will manage all the state of making the query and getting the result and waiting periods, etc., etc. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so let's start with the listing page. So as I say, the first page that we're going to create is the folder for people. Okay, and inside people, I will create the index.jsx file. So this will be the /people page. Okay. Now in pages in Next.js, that React component that you create in pages should be export default. Always export default. And it's the only way and only place in Next.js project that we should mandatorily use export default. Okay? In components, only for pages. The reason is this: we don't use export defaults ever. When we are creating components, we use export, and we create it like this: export function and the component name, right? This is a name export. This is what we call a name export. A name export is that we are exporting a function with the name. When you do export default, you are not exporting the name. It's just exporting the default. You're exporting the function, but the name is not there, right? And that usually has errors. The only thing with this is that in Next.js, the default export is used to basically say that's the component for that page. So in pages is the only place we use export default. Other places in components we don't use export default, okay? But in pages we have to use export default. So here you do export function, and you can do this. Notice that I don't even need a name for that function, right? It's just export default. If you want to give it a name, fine. You can say, okay, this is the people page, and it's fine, but you don't need it, okay? Now, in this page, we know that this is the people's list page, okay? People list page. Now, with this in place, only this, if I run my application and I go to that /people page, I should see this, right? Let me go to that page. People list page. So this will be my listing of people, okay? Now, how do I query using this, using the people table that I have in Supabase? Well, the first thing I need to do is to check that we have React Query installed in our project. So we can check in package.json if we have React Query, and we don't, so we need to install it, right? So we go to the terminal.
Oh, question.
Yes.
So even though we don't have React Query, we already had Supabase in there.
Yeah.
Oh, because this is a template. We're just starting. I got you.
Yeah.
Right.
So
This is-
Supabase is for querying data. React Query is to manage the query. The logic is you don't actually need React Query, but it will simplify the work a lot for you. Because the thing is that when you're making a query, so in your web application, you know how to make the query to the database. You have Supabase for that. That's perfect. The problem is that every time you make a query to the backend, you need to handle that state. You have to visually give the user a feedback of what's happening, right? And then you have to, what happens if the query fails? You have to retry it. And what happens if you go outside of the app and you go back to the app your data should be refreshed, right? To handle all that behavior, and by the way, this is normal behavior for any of the apps that you use today. So all the apps that you use today do this already. So if you don't provide this same type of behavior in your app, then your app will be kind of lacking, right? Because everybody else in the web is doing that. So, for example, you're probably seeing in GitHub, if you do something in GitHub and you go back to the GitHub page, it will automatically update. It's not that the page is always updating. It's updating when you go back and the page say, oh, I'm visible again, right? And it's refreshing the data and it's updating everything. That's automatically handled for you, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay? That's React Query. That's what React Query does. Yes.
The 3 Supabase dependencies, was that like an npm install Supabase?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Exactly. We did that in the template class.
Yeah, I didn't even know we had a template.
Okay, so let me install React Query. By the way, React Query, let's find the documentation for React Query so we know how to install it. So React Query is this project over here. Okay, and installation. Here we are. npm install React Query. Ooh, I got that. It's really bad. Couple days in bed, by the way. Okay, so this is so this is the command npm install -- save /stat React Query. Okay. Oh, yeah, sure. Let me. No, I closed the Slack. Well, let me open it again. Where's Slack? Oh, here's Slack. There you go. Okay. So now you will see React Query in the dependencies right there, right? React Query. We know it's installed, but we have to configure it now. Now, in the configuration module, it says you have to wrap your app with this query client provider. We have an app component. Every Next.js app has an app component. You can find it here in pages _app. You see? This is the app component. So inside this app component, I have to put the query client provider. So I am wrapping my whole app component with this query client provider. When I say wrapping, it's just putting everything inside that component, right? That's what wrapping means in GSX. Let me see what else. Oh, I need to create this query client. And well, that's it. So that's for the app. So create the query client and wrap my whole app in the query client provider. That means that anywhere inside my app, I can use the query hooks, right? All the query function, React Query functionality. By the way, I forgot what I was to say. Query client provider. Okay, one of the functionalities of React Query is caching. So this is very good also when you are, for example, you are in the listing page and when you click one of the items, you go to the details page, right? What happens is that when you go to the details page, because you're loading all that data in the cache first, the listing page is already cached, right? So when you go to the details page, that details page is not loaded yet. So the first time that you go to that person, you will see a delay, right? And you will see the data after. When you go back, that listing page is already cached. So it's automatically there. It's super fast, right? And if you go back to the same person, then it's super fast as well because it's already cached, right? So that's what React Query is doing for you. It's caching also all that information. And this client provider provides that context. Remember the context class? So everything that needs access to the context should be inside the context provider. So that's what we're doing here. We're just putting a context around our whole app. So that means that anywhere inside our app, we have access to that functionality. Sorry? Everything? Okay. Well, that's pretty much the same for every of your templates. So yeah, I guess it's fine. Yeah, okay. So here, how do we use React Query? So the way we use React Query is that we use the hook, the query hook. So let's say this is the people query. And the name of the query the name of the hook that we're going to use is use query. Notice that use query, we have to import it from React Query. Okay? Now, use query receives one parameter. That parameter is an object, and that object has another set of properties. The first property is query key. Query key should be an array with something that describes what I'm querying, right? And this query key is good because everything in the cache is tied to this key, right? So if I want to clear the cache, I only have to say clear the people key, and everything in the cache will be deleted. And if any page is trying to access in that cache, then the data will be revalidated. Revalidated means it will go to the backend and query again, okay? But we need that query key. By the way, it is whatever you decide to be, right? It could be people. It depends on what are you querying, actually. Okay?
Professor, what I don't understand is how are you communicating with the backend right now?
Not yet, not yet, not yet. I'm not communicating yet.
Oh, okay.
Still hasn't happened. I'm just preparing the set. I'm just preparing the set to make that query to the backend, okay? Now, the second part of this is the query function, okay? Now, the query function is a function. By the way, it doesn't take parameters. And this function should do the querying, right? Now, I will do this. I will return a mock function with just an empty array, right? This function is not returning now. It's just returning an empty array. It's not doing actually anything. Sorry. What I'm missing? Oh. Okay. So this is a query using React Query. And notice that I need a query key and a query function. My query function is this. For now, it's just returning an empty array. So that means that I'm making that query. What I'm getting is an empty array, right? I'm not yet connecting to Supabase. Now, in my people's list table, let me make this a little bit pretty. Okay, and I will list using people query. Now, people query, yes? Oh, I have to, yeah. People query is an object that has a set of properties. One of these properties is the data, right? When I get the result from the backend, I will have that data. For now, I'm just getting an array. So data dot map person, and I would just do this person.name. Okay? Sorry. So data is the data that I'm getting from the backend. Now, you see in this question mark that I'm putting here. This means that this data, remember when you're making a query to a backend, that query is asynchronous, right? That means that I can make the query now, but I can get the response after 30 seconds, 1 minute, hopefully 100 milliseconds, right? But it will take some time to get the response back. During that time, my page is already rendered. So if I don't put this question mark here, data is undefined because I don't have the data yet. If I don't put this question mark here, then this will fail in the rendering.
This whole promise thing.
It's because it's a promise, yeah. So in this case, I will just see, oh, by the way, I need to run the server again. And now I should see just a page that should be empty. Just an empty page, right? Because I'm returning an empty array. So this is the function that's getting the data for me. Right now it's returning an empty array. What if I return an object here with the name John? Let's do Mary. Right? That's what I'm going to see. So every time I load this page, I should see that data. Okay? Because the query is always returning the same thing, an array with only one element with that name in it. If I add another element, then I should see 2 elements on the page, right? My job now is to basically change this function to an actual function that connects to Supabase and gets me the right data, right? So that's what I'm saying. You can see 2 things going on here. One is connecting everything for React query to make it work, and then the second one is connecting to the database and getting the data. Now, how to create that Supabase function? We already have functions here, and I will create it outside of this component. So I go to the service folder and I create get people yes. And this is a function that will take a Supabase client, and in Supabase, lucky for us, if you go to any table, you will see an API docs section here, and you can click that and you can see examples of how to get the data using Supabase, right? So for example, if I want to read all the rows, I have this. And I can copy that. Okay? So from Supabase, from the table people, select asterisk. It's like SQL, right? Select asterisk means select everything. And if it's an error, of course, so do something with that error. I will assume that we will not have errors here, and I will just return people. This people is the array with all the results in it. And every element in the table, every row in the table will be an object. And that object will have ID, name, DOB, etc., etc. All the properties will be listed there, okay? So I take that function, I come back to my function here, and I do get, what was the name? Okay, people, and I pass the Supabase. Actually, yeah, it needs a sync. So now, and I think something failed.
You didn't put any names on the table?
I think I did.
Hey, you put Mary Jane.
No, remember that was on the
Wait.
not the table that is space.
It's more 20 somewhere.
Wait. Get people. Oh, Supabase. I'm not passing Supabase. That's the error. Use Supabase client. So the reason I'm passing Supabase to this function is because the only way to get the client in Supabase is by using this hook, right? So I get the Supabase client and I have to pass it down to that function. Yeah, that was the issue. And we're not getting anything. Nothing in, well, why? Oh, I know why.
Oh, because you didn't import.
No, that's not the issue. The issue is with the protection in Supabase. Remember, tables are protected by default, so we need to make this table. Yeah, we need to disable this. It's basically making the table public, right? The thing is that all tables are protected by default, and you only see rows that belong to you. But if I didn't create it, then I cannot see it, but now I will be able to see it. Oh, there it is, John Doe. Okay, so that's coming directly from the database. If I add another record in the database, let's say I would add here, no, Carlos, Jane Doe, okay. Okay. By the way, you see that every time I go back to the page, it's not doing anything. There is a way in React Query that you can do refresh on window focus, and you say true. And that means that every time you go back to the page, it will refresh the data, right?
That's part of React Query or
React Query. That's part of React Query. So you see now it says Jane Doe, but if I change the name from Jane Doe to what did I save it? Interesting. Wait. It's not refreshing. Interesting. Well, that's weird, but I guess it's kind of weird. Oh, I know. Key. No? Oh, that's weird. It should refresh automatically. Not sure why it's not doing it. Yeah, it's missing. Okay, well, we can leave this out. Okay, cool. So, but again, the idea is to use Supabase client with the function to get the data, right? We're getting all the elements of that table, and then using React query with a query key and the query function and then we got this people query object that basically has all the data that we care. Now, this people query also have more properties that we care about. For example, it's loading, and then we can put a div saying loading, right? So if I have a slow connection, you say it says loading, and then it shows the data, right? Now, loading only shows the first time that it's loading the data. There is another property for when the data is getting revalidated. It's another data when it's an error.
So you won't get it again if things are cached already, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you can know if the data is cached or not, right? All the information is here in this people query. Now, usually the two more common that we use is loading and data. But you can also check if there are errors, right? People.
Data is just the data, right?
You see, if it's error, then you can show a message. So there is things that you can get out of that listing. Now, I didn't show all the information in the listing. I only have the name, but we can get everything. We can get the name. We can get the. Oh, it's person. What else do we have there? Oh, the DOB.
Email, phone, whatever.
Yeah, the email, the address, phone, right?
And pulling those names from Supabase?
Sorry?
And pulling those field names from Supabase?
Yeah, everything is getting pulled from Supabase. So everything that you get, notice that when you make the query,
Pretty cool.
you will see in the query, you will see all the data from that, right? So everything is in there. When it was created, the date of birth, everything. Now I'm listing this in a LI, right, as a list item. But you can as well use a table, right?
Did you say tables are kind of, no one does tables anymore?
Yeah. It's not uncommon.
Using table as far as like the placement of things,
Yeah.
not his use case.
If it's a table, it's the best thing, right?
Okay.
Because it's guaranteed that everything will match. It will be in the same row. Yeah. But now every element of the data should be in its own. Something like this. Let's make it a little bit more border.
Television.
Oh shit. Actually, saw it here. So wait, what is the property in the border? Is here border? Sorry about that. I'm really bad. What is the property that will give you?
The line
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean, like two different colors between?
No, no.
Not like the cells, you mean the division between the cells.
So that's MP and margin MP3, I think it's.
No, no, no. It's a border. Comma 2, like this. That doesn't seem right. That's actually an error.
It's basically you're saying a different word for border, right?
Yeah, but it's not border. It's something else.
Yeah. Divider or sooner?
Yeah.
Cell border.
Maybe cell border.
It's not border. Does anybody remember what is the one?
The border styles?
Which one?
Border styles?
Border styles.
No.
No.
Verde separado.
Wait.
Table, borders, cell borders.
Yeah.
Oh, we have to give a border to the TH and the TDs. Oh.
Oh, bro.
Okay, I think we can do that. Class name table. And we can oh, actually we don't need any of that. Okay. Okay. Cool. Now we're missing a couple ones here, right? What are the two that we're missing here? The country and the picture. Okay, let's fix the country first. Now for the country, if we put the country ID, right? Because that's what the table has, right? We have a country ID. If we put country ID and we try to show that, you see that what we're seeing is the ID of the country. That's not optimal. Okay? Now, there is a way when you're making this type of queries in Supabase to basically say, okay, if this is a foreign key to a different table, give me also the results of querying that table. Okay? And for that, we go to the query, and we can do here, comma, countries. I think it's the way to do it. Let me see if that's the way I remember. And you will see in the results, actually no, that's not the way to do it. So let's check Supabase, API docs, read rows. Oh, order table, foreign key. So foreign key is country ID. So we go to the code and we do order table. What's the country? Oh, country ID. And that's wrong.
You don't have access to that table? Did you put the access for that table?
Yeah. Let me change that to the countries. Oh,
What
shit.
do you have to do it to, right?
Right. But people, let me see again. Creating rows. Select some column, order table, foreign key. So that means asterisk, all the table is countries, and the foreign key is country ID, right? So in my code, it should be countries, country ID. So this is correct. Why it's not showing? Still failing. What is missing? Oh, there you go. Okay, you see countries here? So now we can get, oh, ID. No, I don't need the ID. I need the name.
So it did work.
Yeah, it worked. That's why I had the asterisk here. It was what you're saying. It's like I need access to this. And actually, I only need the name, but putting an asterisk is,
So you can grab everything.
yeah, I can grab everything exactly. So now you notice that in the table, in the query, I have, in the results, I have, you can see it here. For every element, I have country ID, but I also have countries. And for that country, I have all the properties of the matching of the referenced country. And I only need the name. So I can go to my table and say, okay, I don't need country ID, I need countries, the name. So now I have USA and Colombia. Okay? So I can work on that as well. You need that, by the way. Cool? Now, the last one that I will add here is the picture, right? Now, for pictures in Supabase, we use a storage, right? And in storage, we can create buckets. Now, buckets also have particular permissions, right? So for every bucket that you create, you can set it as public. That means that anybody can have access to these pictures, right? Pretty much in every one of your projects is like that. You need to be able to upload pictures and allow other users to see it. But you also need a policy, and that policy is basically allowing select and insert. And that select and insert are necessary to upload pictures to that bucket. Okay? So when you create your bucket, I name my bucket pictures, right? And in that bucket, I uploaded some of the pictures, and for every picture you have basically a name, you see? FI JPEG. Now you can take that name and you can change your data, and I will change this for Jane FI. I should get another picture. This is Mark. And this is Dave. Let me take Dave. Okay. And people. This is Dave. I forgot the name of the extension. Okay. So I can put the names, but that doesn't mean that I will get the image, right? How do I get the image? By the way, once I put the name and I go back here, I will see the names already in the query, right? You see the picture right there? Now, there is a way in Supabase that based on the bucket and the file name, you can get a URL. So Supabase will give you a new URL where your image will reside, right? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to create a component here for the picture. Okay, so initially we're just going to show the file name, but the idea is to put the picture here. Okay, so let's create a component. Let's call it image or super image. Export function super image. The only property that we need is the bucket and the file name. Okay, now we need the Supabase client. Use Supabase. We're going to have stay here for the image URL. This will be state. It will be null at first, and we're gonna use a use effect here. Now this use effect will do this. We'll get the picture using Supabase, the bucket, and the file name. And once it's finished, it will set the image URL. If I have the image URL, actually if I don't have the image URL, I will return null. So nothing will be rendered if I don't have the image URL. If I have it, then I will render an image. With max width of 100. I'm missing something here. I'm missing something here. I don't remember. Oh, maybe. Okay. Okay, so now with this component, I can go to my page, and if they're using person picture, I can say super image bucket. What's the name of the bucket? Pictures. And what's the name of the file name? Person dot picture. And there you have it. Okay, so this is the list page. Notice that we only use Supabase to query data and React query to manage the state of that query. Okay? And all listing pages should be exactly like this, right? There's no difference between them. The only difference is what data are you querying and how do you format that query, right? And of course, what happens from here? So what happens from here? I should be able to click on one of these items and go to the what page? If I click on Anna Maria, what happens? I go to the details page for Anna Maria. If I click John Doe, I will go to the page for John Doe. Now, what page is that? And how do I make that link? I had to make a link here. Yeah, it's already. To what page? To /people/ the ID. Exactly. So I go person.id. Now I have a link to the person ID page. Of course, that page now is empty. But notice that when I click here, it will go to people/ the ID of that person. Yeah. Once I create that page, that's what I will see. If I go back, the data will be there. By the way, this is working kind of funky because it's loading the data every time. That's weird.
You mean it's not caching?
It's not. Sorry. Yeah, it's not caching it. I think it's. No, I don't know. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's not. Now, if I want to create a page, I go to people, And I create a new folder, ID, and inside that folder I create the index. And in here I do spot default, function, person, page, return, this is the person page for person ID. I will have the ID here. Let's say that for now I have the page, so I know that I'm going to that page. Oh, there it is. I think the error is the cache. See? Now, how do I know the ID for that page? I can get that from the router. And to get the router, use router.query.id. So this is the page for this ID, and this is the page for this other ID. So every page has its own ID. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, let's leave it there. And questions?